Hi, everyone. So today's my guest is Jeff Perry. He is a little different guest than my usual guest. My usual guests are senior leaders running big engineering organizations in big companies. But Jeff here, he will help us become one of those senior leaders. So Jeff is a leadership and career coach, specifically focusing on engineering and technology professionals. His focus is on career transitions, personal development, and generally creating a life you love. Jeff also hosts the Engineering Career Coach podcast. So, Jeff, as I was saying, many of our audience are senior leaders, their managers, leads, and aspiring their managers who are very technical in nature, and they don't even realize that they need an executive coach. I have personal experience. Some of my friends, they took the role of a manager, managing big team, and then they scaled back, stepped back, saying that they did not enjoy management. But I feel they were lacking some of the leadership skills. And so my first question to you is, who needs this leadership and career coach? Who are your target audience?
Yeah, great, Rafat, and thanks so much for having me. And I'm excited to talk about this. Now, when we're talking about who needs this and why people might need a coach, well, I'm going to say at some point in the career of a leader, everyone is going to need it at some point. And it could be helpful depending on whatever the challenges that we're trying to move through and the skills that we're trying to work on. And I'm going to go one level deeper, the person that we're trying to become, right? If we need help and support in that. So here's just a few examples of the types of people and the types of situations and challenges that people often come to me and seek for some help on. So sometimes people are in a career situation where they feel stuck and they're not sure how to get out of it. Whether, in that company, they feel like they've kind of maxed out and where they're at, and they need to make that next shift, and they're not sure how to do that, especially if it's someone who's been in the same company for 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. And like, I haven't had to go looking for jobs, so now what do I do if I want to do something different? But other reasons of feeling stuck is feeling like, they're actually being suppressed by their leaders and not giving the opportunities for various reasons. So feeling stuck in some form or fashion in your career development and progression is one reason you might need a coach to help you break through that. Some people are just kind of in like a negative headspace. They've lost confidence. Maybe there's been some recent setbacks, for plenty of people, company downsizing and other things. Even in some software industries, depending on who their clients are, with the pandemic and things like that, recently they've taken some hits. And so now they're lacking confidence in their ability to really take the next step or really take the next leap. They feel that imposter syndrome coming through, and so they need some support there. There's other people who many technologists and leaders look at their careers and see many potential avenues and opportunities in front of them, but they get stuck in analysis paralysis because there's so many directions to kind of take that next step, but they're not sure what is that next step. What do I really want? Because they've just kind of been allowing life in their career to happen to them rather than being proactive in moving towards what they want. But to put it simply, Rafat, anyone who has goals and objectives that they feel like they need some help clarifying and achieving, and they want some help and support in reaching those goals, a coach can help you with that. And that's really what it's all about.
So that's perfect. So as you said, people who feel that they are stuck and they have to move to the next level, and that's where you can come and help. But I see many cases where people don't even realize that they are stuck. They don't realize. And then when you talk to them, they said, yeah, I don't like my job. I'm a dev for a long time. And I'm looking at their experiences and I'm saying, my God, you have all this experience. You should be maybe, being a mentor to a lot of other people or running a team. But so what I'm wondering is there some kind of a self-test where I can run on myself and realize that I need a career coach? Yeah, is there a self-diagnostic mechanism?
So I'm going to make this really simple, right? So let's think about, do you have goals that you're moving towards? Like, do you have a purpose? Do you have a, thinking about not just like what this next step is, but in the next 5, even 10 years, you go much further than that. And you can certainly have some underlying like life purpose things, like this is why I live on this planet right now kind of thing. But do you have goals you want to attain? And then asking yourself, do you feel like currently you have all the resources and the support that you need to achieve those goals right now? If the answer is yes, then okay, maybe you already have a support network or mentors or other people or other resources that are going to be able to help you achieve those goals. But if the answer is no, a coach could potentially be that additional layer of accountability and support and expertise to help you gain those skills and move the needle in the direction that you want to take your life and your career.
Right. One question I have is there a difference between an executive coach and a leadership coach? Or they both are same thing and called by different names?
They're pretty synonymous. Now, some people will, but when you are coaching an actual executive at the, senior leader, C-suite, or vice president level of a large organization, that is a different scope and layer of challenges that they're dealing with than a frontline or maybe even like a senior manager who's a manager of managers or something like that, right? And so I'll be transparent in my personal leadership experience in corporations is kind of in that early to mid stage management and up to kind of director level. That's kind of my personal sweet spot.
Okay.
In my personal experience and the people that I've worked with. But I see opportunities for me personally and plenty of other people to work with more of those executive type people.
Okay.
And it's a progression that I will continue to have as a coach, just like people would have as a progression through their careers in corporations and companies, right? So that might be the distinction, is people might call themselves an executive coach if they specifically target senior executives and C-suite and senior vice president type people, as opposed to leadership could potentially mean kind of any layer of leadership, or people who aren't leaders now and want to become leaders.
Want to become leader.
Could do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a very important distinction because people who are listening to you, if they are an aspiring lead or aspiring dev manager or director, they should be able to, approach you and talk to you and find out how they can improve themselves. Because most of us, I think everybody has a blind spot.
Yes.
And very few people, I feel, realize that they have a blind spot. Because once you realize, you may start fixing it, but you don't realize it. And so there are other people who are like me, maybe, who even realize that I have a blind spot, but not doing much about it. Thinking that, I
Yes.
can read these books. I read so many books and I listen to this and that person, and I will improve by myself. So, do you have anything to say to people like me who are thinking, oh, they can fix themselves? How you can help them?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things with engineers and technical people is they've kind of taken that on as an identity, right? For so long,
Right.
many people, like, as technology and opportunities change, so many of us have gone and said, that's something I don't know right now, a new technology or new opportunity. I'm going to go learn that. And they do. And they go, bring along the resources and they do that. So this idea of like, I can be self-taught and grow through these challenges becomes part of the identity of many of the people that we're talking about here, in the engineering and technology space. But when it comes to some things, you talk about these blind spots, right? Or not even aware or don't even know that we need that. And I think that no matter what, we need people in our lives that can be kind of third-party people who can tell us the truth.
Mm, mm,
And not all of us have that, right? And
true.
so there's just so many pieces to that. And so that's one role that a coach sometimes plays, that people come, they really value that. They're like, you know what, just having someone else to talk to who's not directly involved in the challenges and things that I'm facing. You can't have perfectly frank conversations all the time with like your boss or even like a skip level manager at work or something like that. Right.
Right.
So having these outside people, and sometimes, like I said, a coach can fill that role who can really share and see things, give that outside perspective. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are. Everyone needs an outside pair of eyes
True.
sometimes.
True. Agree.
And so we all need that.
Yeah, perfect. So, what is the modus operandi of this thing? Like, do you shadow me in my work environment? Do I just set up one-on-one with you weekly, monthly? How does this work?
Yeah, so there's a few different pieces here. So before anything really happens, we really clarify what's the goal, like what are we solving for, right? Like what's the challenge? And the way that I'll actually put that is like, what's our definition of success? So if you and I, Rafat, were working together, how would you define success, 3 to 6 months or a year or multiple years out? Looking back on our time working together, what would need to happen? What sort of progress did you need to make, and where would you like to be so that you feel like it was worthwhile that we did this work together? And
Mhm.
that begins to frame the whole purpose and focus. When we put that in a positively framed goal and definition there, then everything else that we do can move to support that. Now, as far as what actions we're taking, I've got a lot of tools in the tool belt that we can use, but the actual process these days, it certainly has been hard to actually spend time with anyone in
Right.
person. So not generally shadowing. It's very much in these coaching sessions where we're
Okay.
uncovering the challenges, and these days it's almost exclusively online over Zoom or other platforms, where we can uncover in these one-on-one sessions and dive in. Sometimes we'll do other assessments to dive in and maybe
Mhm.
uncover things that might need to be worked on. Like a foundation thing that I believe wholeheartedly in as far as personal development is identifying and increasing awareness around our mindsets, which I define as the set of beliefs that we view the world and the people that we interact with and really believe about ourselves, some of those core beliefs even, and identifying those. And so we work on mindsets and how we want to move the needle there, because I'm a huge believer that mindsets, what we believe, drives then our behavior, the things that we do, which then drives our results,
True.
right?
True.
And so we're often thinking about results. Often, sometimes we get prescriptions for like, this is what I need to do differently. That's in that behavior realm. But underneath that, for true sustained change, we need to change how we think and what we believe in
Mm.
order to establish more sustained change.
Okay. So it looks like just even if I just try to talk to you will bring a lot of improvement, because you said initially when you will, you talk to me, you will ask me define success,
Mm.
what you want to be. So this will force you to become self-aware and figure it out where you want to go, because even, yeah, as I said, many people don't even think about these things. So that's a very big good start itself. Just start discussing with you itself is a goodness. So what I'm wondering is, Jeff, do you have any website where I can go and do kind of self evaluation, some tool which can help me figure it out, my blind spot and nudge me towards a coaching, saying, hey, you may need these things. Is there a web page or questionnaire or something is there where I can go and do a self-test for myself?
Yeah, so I haven't developed that yet. That's actually a fabulous idea for the future of what I'm trying to build and do and ways to help people.
Hmm.
But there are a number of assessments that I will use with my clients depending on what we're working on. And some of those early ones, like I talked about, some assessments around mindsets. There's one in particular, a researcher that I've been able to connect with personally. His name's Ryan Gottfredson. Um, Works out of and does research out of the University of California system, and does
Hmm.
research around mindsets. And there are 4 different sets of mindsets. And so he's got a fabulous assessment that I like to use with my clients. It's a free assessment if you go to ryangottfredson.com. Not something that I
Hmm.
developed, but I found a great tool that is really useful and evaluates you around 4 different mindsets and where you're at right now and some of the ways that you could increase awareness and change. Um, so that's one thing. And then it really comes down past the assessments is a lot of, I've got a lot of great activities and assignments that I'll give people that really ask them to engage in reflection and, looking inside themselves, introspection, right? So
Hmm.
I do
Hmm.
have a free tool that people can go check out, and we can share that link later if they go to my
Right.
website at engineeringcareeraccelerator.com/career-clarity. It's a career clarity um,
I
document
think
or
that
resource to help you move through a bunch of activities and ideas to engage in that introspection, right? So we can
right,
share more about that later and some of the things that are in there, but
right.
that's not necessarily an assessment as much as a set of activities that you'll move through to help you figure out the things that you really care about and want to be doing.
Right. I think that will be a great tool for people to help do the introspection and get some self-awareness that where are their, blind spots and where they are lacking things or where they need help. Because often it happens, few things which are very prominent to find out that I am lacking. For one example, I'll take with my own experiences, like I was not able to do a very big, huge gathering presentation where 3,000 people were there. I was very, very scared
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know how to go about it. And the only way is to just basically get into the water and learn swimming there. Fortunately, that time I was in Microsoft, they provide you a lot of help. I knew that I am very scared of public speaking. I started working on that, but there's often blind spots which we are not even aware that how
Mm-hmm.
people perceive us. So in Microsoft, they used to do this insight. It's called insight training or something where they assign you colors: red, yellow, green, blue. Red means you are very aggressive. Blue means you are very analytical, and
Yeah.
yellow means sunshine and happy.
Yeah.
And once I went through that training, I was like shocked, realizing that people are seeing me as an aggressive
Mm-hmm.
person, type A person, which I never thought I am. I
Yeah.
thought I'm analytical, but it's not. So that was a big eye opener for me. So I think tools like this will help everybody a lot.
Yeah, and do want to be careful with tools like that. Just put a little bit of a disclaimer with things like that. So the tools like that, and I think one of the what that could have been was a color code. There are plenty of tools out there, personality tests. Sometimes we're
Yes,
talking about
yeah,
animals or colors, or the Myers-Briggs rates you on 4 different areas, and sort of 16 different personalities and
yeah,
stuff like that. But I'll say sometimes those personality tests can be helpful to have us gain awareness of kind of how we're thinking and operating in that moment. But what I want people to be aware of is that sometimes taking those personality tests can be unhelpful if we take that take a test like that and sit and have this personality test then feel like it defines us for the rest of our life, right? Say,
Mm,
this
mm,
personality test told me that I'm a red and that I'm aggressive. And so that means I always have to operate like that for the rest of my life, instead of finding, what are the good things about that I like? And are there some things about that I want to adjust? So sometimes, to
right.
use a mindset principle, many people might be aware or familiar with the fixed versus the growth mindset.
Yes.
Sometimes the a personality test or something like that can get us into a fixed mindset, thinking that that's who we are and that's who we're always going to be. And that's what I want people to avoid. So if you do take a test or use a tool like that, use it as a snapshot, as this is what this is telling me right now. Can I increase awareness?
True.
But don't
True.
allow that to feel like that's going to define you now and forever.
True, true. I agree with you. I think that's a very important point because people get stuck into that. And I had a blog also somewhere because I did the same test 2 times. I
Mm,
think there was a gap of 5 years, and
yeah,
I was completely changed.
exactly.
And it was drastic change, and I was amazed of why this change happened. And then I started debugging myself, going backwards, seeing why did I change, and I realized my role was changed.
Hmm.
I was no more dev, but I was a dev lead and become dev manager. So
Hmm.
suddenly that aggressiveness has gone down, and different things emerged. So that's a good point. That yeah,
Yeah. And that's a nice
careful
thing
of those
to
tools.
look at. Sometimes we need to just take stock and look back at, the previous times, and take stock and say, we grow and progress over the course of our lives. You're a different person than you were 5 years earlier. And that's going to be true
True.
5 years from now. You're going to be a different person because of the people you're going to meet, the experiences you're going to have, and the things you're going to learn, and the opportunities you're going to have. We change and progress over time. So we should never feel like who we are and the skills and the value that we bring to the table is fixed and constant. We're always growing and changing. So I'm not surprised that an assessment told you that you changed, because all of us are changing.
True, true, true. So, Jeff, as you are a leadership coach, I would like to know what are the attributes of a good leader?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of them that we could potentially talk about. But remember when we were talking about some of those things earlier, about leadership certainly is about what you do, but underneath that, it's also about who you are, right? And I talked about the mindsets that really drive our behaviors and our actions. So I'm a huge believer that kind of becoming the person who um, deserves, I'm going to say, to be followed as a leader, right? Like becoming that
Mm,
person. So there are plenty of great leadership models out there that kind of give you frameworks, but I'm not going to dive into any of those in particular. Sometimes I'll pull from different ones depending on what people are looking at or needing. But I do want
mhm,
to just really drive to, it goes beyond necessarily just the skills that sometimes we focus on, like communication skills or executive presence or these other things, but what we truly believe about ourselves and the people we're working with. And so I approach
mm,
that from a foundation of mindsets. Another thing I'll talk about is really understanding, clarifying, and then living in congruence with a set of core values that we have as a person. Okay.
mm,
Those things that we really hold dear. Because if we are living incongruently, if we espouse to believe in certain principles or ideals or core values, and then we act not in accordance with those things, the people that we lead, the people that we interact with, the people in our lives, they can tell, they can see the hypocrisy there. So we need to
mm.
have those things, recognize those things that we really care about, and then live in congruence with those things that are most important to us, right? So, um,
True.
and then connecting on top of that, I'm going to say a clarity of purpose, right?
Mm,
So often leadership models will put at the very forefront the importance of a vision, right, for a team or an organization, things like that, because the whole group, the whole organization needs to know, what are we shooting for, right? Like where are we driving towards? And then if that purpose and that vision is clear, then you can promote more autonomy because everyone knows, what we're shooting for and the kinds of organization and team that we're trying to become, right? So you can do that and you can do that at every single level of an organization, from the very top to, this is what the organization's doing, this is what this division's doing, this is what this team is doing, this is my clarity of purpose as an individual, and connecting that with the bigger purpose and vision is a great piece. And then finally, I'm going to give one other attribute. I'm going to call it cognitive flexibility. Okay. This ability to consider new ideas and new ways of thinking, to doubt what we believe to be true, and then to actually have the flexibility in some cases to accept new ideas, right?
Very good. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's actually some big research around it. A Harvard psychologist a number of years ago talked about it as layers of development. I think Stephen Covey talked about the ideas of like going from codependent to independent to interdependent as a layer of development, and that interdependent, where we can grow and change with other people through not transactional but transformational relationships, and grow with them, rather than just bringing people around us who already believe the same things that we believe, because that makes us feel better. That's more of an independent thing, right? So we want to be
So very,
challenged
very,
and go through that.
no, very good points. So when you are saying this thing that open to new ideas, and my background coming from India and having the roots there, where uh, we had the whole culture, the way we
Right.
think, and when we come here, we start getting hit by new ideas every day.
Sure.
And I see now how my kids are bringing the new ideas every day, and I
Sure.
have to be open to change. And I see few parents able to cross that hurdle of accepting these new ideas because it's coming from their kid who's like in fifth, sixth grade, telling
Right.
them what is right, what is wrong, and then so that's, I think, very important point, and really tells you about your growth mindset. If you are open to and continuously accepting new ideas and learning. And so, one more thing I want to know. So, I understand the definition you gave me about leadership, where you are talking about having a core values of your own and living them, and be the leader. Don't try to emulate something or try to copy, but you are the leader. But my question is, of course, we have all the skill sets around. Is leadership is also a skill? Can I learn be a leader?
Absolutely. There's actually been some research around this, kind of figuring out, like, are we born leaders, or is this something that
Mm,
can be learned and developed? And
right.
the best research I've seen on it, possible, that talks about that up to 70% of the traits and the skills and the attributes of great leaders are things that are learned through the course of our lives and are not hereditary traits. Okay.
Mm,
Now, certainly
mm,
those things that can be learned are hugely influenced by the opportunities that we have even in those early developmental years too. So that's
right.
also included, but even later, all of us can continue to learn new skills. You can learn leadership just like you can learn a new software language or a new technology or new networking system or whatever, or new software package. Doesn't matter. Leadership is another skill and attribute that we can gain and grow, just like anything else that we need to learn in life. Absolutely.
Right. So, Jeff, just before this, you were explaining about the leadership, and there you mentioned about executive presence.
Mm.
So I hear this word often about executive presence. So what exactly executive presence is? What does
Yeah,
it mean? Do I wear
yeah.
a tie, have a three-piece suit? What does it mean?
Yeah, no, well, in certain circumstances, that wardrobe is certainly going to be appropriate, but I would imagine that many of the people that we're talking to here in technology, there aren't that many ties and three-piece suits going around in many of the workplaces, right? And that's
Yeah.
just kind of the culture. So it's not about what you wear. Again, it goes back to some of those other principles. It's who you are. Like, are you the kind of person who people want to live up to? Just to use one uh, framework for leadership, there's one that's called transformational leadership that I really like, and there are 4 I's that are part of this. Okay,
Hmm.
so one of those I was talking about, like, are you the person that people want to follow? Is idealized influence. Like, do you
Hmm.
have influence on people and with people because you're the sort of person who they really can look up to
Hmm.
and really admire because you live in congruence with those values, like we were talking about, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's one. The other 3 are intellectual stimulation, like giving people challenges and allowing them to learn and grow.
Hmm.
Inspirational motivation, like really driving to the intrinsic motivation, the motivations that people have inside. And then finally, treating people as individuals, it's called individualized consideration. Like, are we treating everyone the same, or am I looking at Rafat or these other people on my team or my organization as each person has different skill sets and things they're bringing to the table? I'm going to work with them a little bit differently because I care about them as an individual, right?
Okay.
So really bridging those things, I think that when you become that sort of person, which
Right.
takes time, right? But
Right.
then you become that idealized person who, that then you have the presence itself kind of comes along with that.
Okay. Okay. So, how people can approach you? I will have your email and address and LinkedIn, everything in the show notes. People can reach you, but do you have any website or any other way they can reach it to you?
Yeah, so like I said, email. I'm really active on LinkedIn, so people can find me there. Just search Jeff Perry, and then a couple of websites or links we can share here. So my main website is morethan-engineering.com. I've got some free resources for those who are in particular looking at a career transition of some sort. And so some free training I've got at engineeringcareeraccelerator.com, and share some more information about the program that I run there. And then, like I said, for someone who wants that free resource around career clarity, you can go to engineeringcareeraccelerator.com/career-clarity.
Okay. One more question I have, which choose to not answer. Are you very expensive? Because why I'm asking this, a lot of people don't approach you thinking that, oh, they may not be able to afford you. Why I'm asking this specifically, because our audience is worldwide,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Right.
if there are people who are, say, in Africa
Mm-hmm.
or in India and in Pakistan, can they approach you and can you work with them in their currency? Because
Yeah.
conversion will be too much in terms of
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah. So I haven't worked with people international. I've certainly worked with people who come from those countries that are now in the
Right,
United States. Right.
right.
So all of my work thus far has been based in the U.S., but I've connected with people worldwide. But as far as price ranges, there are a number of different things. Certainly, if we go deep into personalized one-on-one career coaching or leadership coaching, that can sometimes be in the thousands of dollars range. But I have
Mhm.
some other packages and like some group coaching options that are just in the few $100 range. So
Okay.
I have some affordable options and certainly plenty of other free resources I can share with people and that I will freely share that, even if working with me is not a possibility, I still want to share things I can that'll be helpful no matter where
Sure.
people are at.
So Jeff, in end, I would like to know if you can suggest a couple of books.
Yeah, a couple that I would recommend. One on the mindset front is called Leadership and Self-Deception, written
Hmm.
by the Arbinger Institute. And it's one of those books that's written kind of like uh, uh, a narrative rather than just sort of declaring like this is the principle, this is what you do, but it's written like a novel.
Hmm.
And so you get to kind of go through and experience the learning and the ideas and the transformation with the characters. And so makes it sort of a fun read. So Leadership and Self-Deception. The other one, a fairly recent book that just came out, and I read fairly recently on that idea of cognitive flexibility that I will
Hmm.
highly recommend is Think Again by Adam Grant. He's
Hmm.
a Wharton organizational psychologist, to really be open to challenging your assumptions and ideas, what you believe right now. So what I would say, and he would say is, these are the things I believe right now, but I reserve the right to change my mind.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So the last question, Jeff, I have, how did you come into this? How did you decide to become a coach?
Yeah, so it's an evolution like anything else, right? So
Mhm.
had multiple technical opportunities. I did work in mechanical engineering and software and manufacturing and stuff like that. Got into leadership opportunities, but then also on the side of one of my corporate roles, got to get into training and in particular some stuff around mindsets that when I was in that training, that it shifted some things in me and I said there's more to this, and there was then an opportunity that we wanted to share this with kind of the rest of the organization. And so I raised my hand and said, hey, I'd love to do this, and unlocked through that experience a love of doing that sort of work, of training, of working with people, and working on the personal human elements of our work rather than just the technology,
Mm.
right, that we're a part of. And so then got to one of those career plateaus where I was looking at, hey, what do I want to do next? And spent a lot of time doing introspection, considering different options. I was getting my MBA degree and other things, and decided eventually to take the leap and create and craft something that really brought together those elements of engineering and technology that I loved with that personal development side of things. So I like to say now that instead of developing technology, developing products, that I now work on developing people.
Wow. Yeah. Great. Great. So with that, thank you very much. A huge thank you for taking some time to speak with us. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for the great conversation, and look forward to staying in touch.